JonBenét Ramsey, A Christmas Mystery. The winter of 1996 blanketed Boulder, Colorado, in quiet snow. Twinkling lights glowed along Pearl Street, and in the stately neighborhoods north of downtown, large homes were decorated with garlands and wreaths. For the Ramsey family, John, his wife Patsy, their 9-year-old son Berg, and 6-year-old daughter JonBenét, Christmas that year had been joyful. Friends described Patsy as the perfect holiday hostess, known for her elaborate decorations. JonBenét, a bright-eyed little girl with blonde curls, had been competing in child beauty pageants, often appearing in glittering gowns. The Ramseys seemed like a picture of middle-class success. On the evening of December 25, 1996, the Ramseys returned home after a Christmas party at the home of friends, the Whites. It was a long day of festivities. JonBenét was tired and soon fell asleep. According to the Ramseys, they put her to bed in her second-floor bedroom. By all appearances, it was the end of a warm holiday evening. But by dawn on December 26th, that sense of holiday peace would be shattered. At around 5:30 a.m., Patsy Ramsey awoke early. She later said she wanted to start the day and prepare for their planned trip to Michigan. Descending the sweeping staircase of their home, she noticed something unusual, a sheet of paper on the steps. As she bent to look, she realized it was a handwritten note, several pages long. The words chilled her. It claimed JonBenét had been kidnapped. The note was strangely detailed and used theatrical language. It demanded a ransom of $118,000, a figure that was later noted to be the same amount as John Ramsey's year-end bonus. The note instructed the Ramseys not to call the police and threatened harm to JonBenét if they disobeyed. Despite the warning, Patsy rushed upstairs and woke John. According to their later accounts, both parents frantically checked JonBenét's bedroom and found it empty. They then phoned the police at 5:52 a.m. The first officer to arrive, Boulder Police Officer Rick French, responded quickly, followed by Detective Linda Arndt. However, in hindsight, the scene was not properly secured. Friends and neighbors came to the house to comfort the Ramseys. Some moved through various rooms, potentially disturbing evidence. The ransom note itself was handled by Patsy and others before it could be properly preserved. Officer French conducted a brief search of the house, including the basement, but did not open a closed door to a small windowless storage room later known as the wine cellar. That room would become central to the tragedy. As the hours passed, police waited for a ransom call that never came. Shortly after 1 p.m., Detective Arndt, growing uneasy with the lack of progress, asked John Ramsey and family friend Fleet White to search the house again from top to bottom. In the basement, John entered the small storage room that had been overlooked earlier. There, behind the door, lay the body of 6-year-old JonBenét. She was found lying on the floor, wrapped in a white blanket. Duct tape covered her mouth. A nylon cord was looped around her neck and wrists. John gathered his daughter into his arms and carried her upstairs, a natural reaction for a distraught father, but one that unintentionally further compromised the crime scene. The Boulder County coroner performed the autopsy the next day. The report concluded that JonBenét had died of asphyxia by strangulation, associated with a severe blow to the head. The head injury had fractured her skull. There were signs of prior vaginal injury, though no definitive evidence of conventional sexual assault. No semen was found. The brutality of the crime shocked the nation. The combination of strangulation and blunt force head trauma suggested a complex, perhaps staged, crime scene. It was not immediately clear which injury had been inflicted first. In the weeks that followed, attention turned to the peculiar details of the case. The ransom note was unusually long, over 300 words, and written on a pad of paper from the Ramsey home. The handwriting did not match John or Patsy Ramsey's, according to preliminary analysis, but suspicion lingered. The amount of the ransom, $118,000, caught investigators' attention because it matched John Ramsey's recent year-end bonus. Was this coincidence, or did it suggest that the writer knew the family well? The lack of obvious forced entry was another troubling detail. A basement window was found ajar, and a door had been left unlocked. but it remained unclear whether an intruder had entered the home or the crime had been committed by someone inside. From the start, the investigation split into two competing theories. One camp believed an intruder had entered the house late on Christmas night or early the next morning, bringing the cord and tape, writing the ransom note, and killing JonBenét before fleeing. The other camp suspected that someone in the family was involved, perhaps in a tragic accident that had been covered up to look like a kidnapping. Media scrutiny intensified. The story of a 6-year-old beauty queen found dead in her own home, her family under a cloud of suspicion, gripped the world's attention. The Ramseys appeared on television pleading for the public's help. In interviews, they denied any involvement and expressed frustration at being treated as suspects. Experts debated the ransom note endlessly. Its language, grandiose references to foreign factions, odd phrases, and theatrical threats, was unlike genuine kidnapping demands. Handwriting experts could not reach a unanimous conclusion about Patsy Ramsey's possible authorship, and no definitive match to any individual was ever made. Later analysis showed that the note had been written with a pen and paper from the Ramsey home. This suggested either that the killer spent time inside the house writing it or that someone in the household wrote it themselves. The truth remains unresolved. By late 1997, the case remained unsolved. Boulder police and the district attorney's office often clashed over investigative strategy. The Ramseys, through their attorneys, criticized what they saw as tunnel vision on the part of investigators who focused too heavily on the family. Public opinion was similarly divided. Some believed the Ramseys had been unfairly vilified, while others were convinced that the key to the case lay within the family's home. In 1998, forensic advances allowed investigators to analyze DNA collected from JonBenét's clothing and undergarments. The DNA profile belonged to an unknown male and did not match John, Patsy, or Burke Ramsey. This finding became a cornerstone for those who believed in the intruder theory. Yet it was not the end of the debate. Some experts argued that the DNA could have been from an unrelated source, someone involved in manufacturing or handling the clothing, rather than the killer. The murder of JonBenét Ramsey remained at the center of public attention as 1998 turned into 1999. Although DNA evidence had pointed away from the Ramsey family, suspicion still lingered. The unusual ransom note, the absence of forced entry, and the compromised crime scene left investigators divided and the public frustrated. In September 1998, nearly 2 years after the murder, a Boulder County grand jury was convened to review the evidence. For months, the jurors heard testimony from witnesses, examined photographs, and reviewed forensic reports. The secrecy of the proceedings left the public largely in the dark. Then, in 1999, the grand jury voted to indict John and Patsy Ramsey on charges of child abuse resulting in death and accessory to a crime. However, the district attorney at the time, Alex Hunter, declined to sign the indictment, stating that the evidence was insufficient to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. This decision became one of the most controversial moments in the investigation. The indictment remained sealed for years. When it was made public in 2013, it revealed that the jury had believed there was probable cause to charge the parents, but not enough for a guaranteed conviction. As the years passed, the Ramseys continued to maintain their innocence. They moved away from Colorado, seeking privacy. Meanwhile, investigators pursued other leads. In 2003, a significant development emerged when new DNA testing, using more advanced technology, reaffirmed that the male DNA found on JonBenét's clothing did not match any member of the Ramsey family. This reinforced the intruder theory for many investigators. Still, no suspect was identified. In 2006, the case took an extraordinary and bizarre turn. A former schoolteacher named John Markar was arrested in Thailand after claiming that he had been present at JonBenét's death. His confession was widely reported, but doubts soon emerged. His DNA did not match the evidence from the crime scene, and inconsistencies in his story further undermined his credibility. Authorities eventually dismissed his confession as false. The episode demonstrated how sensational the case had become attracting not just media attention but also individuals seeking notoriety. That same year, Patsy Ramsey died of ovarian cancer at the age of 49. She went to her grave without ever being formally charged and still under suspicion in the eyes of some members of the public. She was buried beside JonBenét in Marietta, Georgia. John Ramsey continued to speak publicly about the case, expressing his hope that new forensic techniques would eventually reveal the identity of his daughter's killer. In 2008, Boulder District Attorney Mary Lacey formally apologized to the Ramsey family and publicly stated that the family was no longer considered suspects. Her statement was based on the male DNA profile found on JonBenét's clothing, which did not match any member of the household. This shift in the official position of the DA's office was a relief to John Ramsey and to those who had long believed the family was innocent. Yet the case was still unsolved. The DNA belonged to someone whose identity remained unknown. The early 2010s saw dramatic improvements in genetic genealogy, a method that had been used successfully in identifying the Golden State Killer in 2018. This approach involves comparing crime scene DNA to profiles uploaded by people to genealogy websites, then tracing family trees to find potential suspects. In 2021 and 2022, Colorado authorities indicated that they were exploring these methods in the JonBenét case. The hope was that one day, the mystery of the unidentified male DNA could be solved, finally revealing the perpetrator. Theories about the crime continued to divide public opinion. The intruder theory. Supporters point to the unidentified male DNA, as well as an open basement window and disturbances reported in the neighborhood that night. They believe someone entered the Ramsey home, either intending to kidnap JonBenét or to commit another crime, and killed her before fleeing. The family theory. Skeptics still suspect that the death was caused by someone in the home, perhaps in an accident that was later covered up. They cite the peculiar ransom note, the lack of definitive signs of forced entry, and the statistical reality that in many child homicides the perpetrator is a family member or someone close to the child. Both theories remain plausible, yet neither has been conclusively proven. The murder of JonBenét Ramsey reshaped the way law enforcement agencies handle child abduction and homicide cases. It highlighted the critical importance of securing crime scenes, handling physical evidence with care, and maintaining clear communication with the public. The case also demonstrated the profound impact of media coverage on high-profile investigations. The Ramseys were vilified by some members of the press and defended by others. Public opinion often swayed with each new headline, sometimes moving far ahead of verified facts. More than a quarter century later, the house at 755 15th Street in Boulder, where the tragedy occurred, has changed owners multiple times. It remains a symbol of the enduring mystery. During the holidays, when festive lights once again glow on Pearl Street, the case is often revisited in documentaries, podcasts, and news reports. For many Americans, JonBenét is remembered not just as a victim, but as a symbol of unresolved questions in the justice system. Her story continues to inspire advances in forensic science and discussions about media ethics in criminal investigations. The JonBenét Ramsey case endures as one of the most infamous unsolved murders in U.S. history. It stands at the intersection of law enforcement challenges, media frenzy, and public fascination with true crime. The hope remains that science and diligent investigation will one day identify the individual whose DNA was left at the scene, providing long-awaited closure for the Ramsey family and for a nation that has followed the case for decades. Even after all these years, the light of that Christmas night still casts a long shadow. The truth about what happened to JonBenét remains out there, waiting to be uncovered. If you found this in-depth, fact-checked account of the JonBenét Ramsey case informative, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more carefully researched true crime stories. Keeping these cases in the public eye is one way we honor the victims and hope for justice.